Faith about? What's your faith about? Tell me what's your faith about? Either you gon' go and quit or find a way to make it out. Some niggas gon' throw a fit, some might go and chase
Hey guys,
the clout.
welcome back to Life with Alisha, the podcast. Here's episode 2. We have the members of the G.R.I.T.S podcast here today, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we'll get into all the questions. So whoever wants to go first.
Hey everybody, I'm Earl Martin, born and raised in Columbia, South Carolina, but I reside here in Charlotte. I'm a licensed therapist that focuses primarily in trauma. I actually know Alisha going all the way back to our Ridgeview High School days when we were young babies, but here we are today.
Grown.
Big grown.
That part. So my name's Julian Holland, and of course, I'm a part of the G.R.I.T.S Co. I'm from Sumter, South Carolina, and for work, I am a government liaison, and we met Academy 101.
I guess
ACAD,
so, yeah.
Something like that.
Yes.
In college, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Hello. I'm Tadium Page from Dillon, South Carolina, the big city, and now live in Rock Hill, work in Rock Hill. My job is people. I do people, I do community. I make the world a better place, and that's what I do every day. Excited to be here. Excited to see you again in your lovely face.
Yes.
So thank you for having us.
Yes, it's so nice to see y'all because, like Earl said, this goes all the way back to, I guess, 2010, because that's when I, and that's so crazy because, so you're 4 years older, 10, grade-wise, grade-wise.
Just sitting there.
Grade-wise, right.
Yeah.
And
30s.
Yeah, I know. My birthday is next week, and I'm like, oh, I'm
30
still.
is fun though.
And I'm actually like excited to get to the 30s. Like sidebar, like I feel like women on social media right now are making 30s look like the place
Let
to
me
be.
tell you something. The day I woke up on 30, I just felt, it's so weird. I just was like at peace. Like I love my 20s, live down.
Right.
But 30s, you just wake up and it's like, I'm good. Like, it's just a lot of things you just don't worry about anymore. And every friend I have, because I'm the oldest in my friend groups, once they hit 30, they say the same thing. So, come
That's
on.
beautiful. Yeah, I'm ready.
Join
I'm
us.
ready.
Join
But I'm not
us.
rushing God, but I'm ready.
Right.
But so with that, because there is an age difference, what do you feel like you learned from them and what did y'all learn from him? And it can be just in life in general, or it could be just specifically.
So I want to start because what's interesting is when we got to Winthrop, of course, well, all three of us did at the same time in 2014.
I was a senior.
Yeah, you were a senior, and we have a mutual friend, Brian, who introduced us like my freshman year. So immediately when I got to Winthrop, you know, being a young guy, like I'm scoping out to see like who else is like me, like who am I going to gel with, all of that. And then Earl just used to come walking through the computer lab and digs. And I'm like, he feel like family, you know, how you doing, family? And so I'm like, mental note. So come to find out, BJ introduces us probably spring semester or something like that. And I would say that I learned how to mind my business from you, but also like that friend group. Y'all were like in the cut. Like you kind of had to search y'all out. Like whenever y'all would have kickbacks, whenever y'all would do things, y'all would have wine nights or whatever.
Very exclusive.
And y'all, I feel like y'all were,
Yeah.
well, I don't know if it's the same friend group, but I feel like you were exclusive also. And I mean, I was also a freshman. So freshman being with seniors is crazy anyways, but I do feel like in high school. So I feel like you've always had that.
I've always been a people person. Like I love to chit chat. I'm a kiki. But my friends, I can kiki with anybody.
Right.
That circle group is very, I'm just protective about my space and energy and my people. So
That's
yeah,
good. That's a good lesson to learn.
Yeah. That's trauma.
That was me. I made it past the velvet rope.
I loved you as soon as I met you.
Yeah.
And then you
It was
tried to
so-
hide Tadian for like a
I
year.
know. I didn't know about them at first. I didn't meet Earl till the sophomore year. Right? Am I telling the truth?
Yeah. First year of grad
Okay.
school. Mhm.
Yeah, my sophomore year, but I never thought about what I learned from Earl more than I've appreciated what I observed about Earl. Just like his energy and how he navigates very calmly but very present and sure. And I feel like I'm saying these words for the first time. Which
You
is
are.
It's
I'm
like
like,
your couch. But I appreciate that. So as I'm navigating these thoughts, yeah, just your assuredness, how to operate in that space and be you, you know that's always enough. I feel like I've observed that and absorbed and observed that about you. Yeah.
so y'all don't know this about. I learned a little bit more freedom from y'all. Because it was always just me and BJ, right? And so me and BJ were just. BJ was my only gay friend. And I had like past wives, but I've always been like, I got my girls.
Right.
And so when we met them, even in their journeys, right, and y'all coming into y'all own and coming into y'all's queerness, I've just always appreciated y'all freedom when we all did get together. So y'all always kind of gave that just be free space. So that space of, it don't really got to be on. And I think all of us have had to be on a lot because we were so involved in campus and different things. So, yeah, y'all always just kind of gave me freedom.
Look at me.
Yes.
No, but and this is like kind of going off because you're talking about being on campus together. How do y'all navigate people thinking that just because you're both, or people think that y'all are dating, or how do y'all even give that any, like, do y'all even address it, or y'all just like let it, or if, because people don't even ask.
I think that's the
That
thing.
That's
I
probably
don't
the
get asked a
thing.
lot of things because if you do know me,
And do you
Earl is
miss
very
us,
boundary.
I mean, I guess if you had an experience with it too, because I feel like, just go ahead.
Can I just
Wait,
say?
can I throw this out? Have you ever thought we dated?
No.
Okay.
No.
Can I just say that at Winthrop, I felt like they were like throwing me against every gay person I would be beside. I'm like,
And
how am I like
but
the
you know what's
common
funny about
denominator?
that, and this is where I was going with it.
Yeah.
Because even if we have thought that you were gay, you talked to everybody. You were very friendly. So why is it that because when I was in like high school or middle school, I was a social butterfly, and I was always a hoe for being a social butterfly. I wasn't doing anything. I was far behind from what girls were doing, for really. So, and it's just like always when, it's just that when people don't know, that they're just like, oh, they must be, especially if they think that you're gay and you're with somebody else that they think is gay, oh, they're,
Like the stories.
yes.
Yeah, I think people get bored.
You're bored.
People get insecure about things, and so they try to create a narrative that's gonna make them feel comfortable, even though you're just like, that's so left field. Also,
Right.
just don't ask, but you can ask respectfully.
And
Right.
on the opposite side of that, you also have people that are just curious too. Like people just genuinely, for one, we're in the South, right? We're all from from South Carolina, went to school in South Carolina. So people just have a lot of gay culture. It's not accessible to people, and it's often like in the shadows already.
Right.
So I also recognize that people can just be questioning, like, okay, he's probably gay. He's always walking with this guy who's probably gay. Maybe they have something going on, and that's maybe a positive way to look at it. But I also think people just wonder, like, they're
Yeah.
both friendly. Maybe they should go together.
Then people be trying, please trying to play matchmaker. They be
Yeah.
like, oh,
That's
I know
true.
somebody
And
gay.
they
It might
do
be
it-
good for them. You're like, girl, we have nothing.
Okay,
There's no
yeah.
chemistry here. Why are we doing
That-
this?
Big
That's
friend
funny.
energy.
Yeah.
But I will say this though. I wondered if people thought Julie and I were together,
Really.
and most people didn't.
Yeah, no, I did. I don't think I got that vibe. I don't think that that's your type.
All right. Thank you.
No, I
Say it again. No.
Oh wait, no.
no, both ways. I mean, unless. No, I don't. Y'all don't seem combat. But I mean, you never know. Also, you never know. You don't know your true self. I feel like a lot of us sometimes. A lot of people are hiding, especially like, if you talk about coming out. A lot of I also feel for. I don't know if it's if I feel bad that you weren't comfortable enough to come out until later on in your life. So like, do you feel like you missed out on yourself from coming out later, or do you feel like you were okay? Like it was that was the time frame that was appropriate for your situation.
So I'm just not a person that kind of like lives in regret. I think when things happen, that's just when it's supposed to happen. if I would, when I see like these young babies coming out in high school,
Okay,
things,
right.
I live for them. I'm like, oh my God, yes, you're going to prom. And so people are like, well, would you have done it? And I'm like, that just wasn't my space. That wasn't my environment. That wasn't the time.
It wasn't.
Like, no. So for me, when I came out, that was the perfect time. I had no reservations about coming out. I wasn't scared. I invited my friend in. She held that space. We kept it pushing. And I just was able to give her the tea of all the college
Yeah,
experiences without the pronouns.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, I don't really have any regrets. I think the timing was right for me.
I don't think I have regrets, but I do feel sad for the younger me who felt like he could not come out earlier. I am aware enough to know that I arrived when I needed to arrive.
Right.
But there was a void that younger me had, right? That younger me was alone a lot. The younger me was depressed and sad a lot. The younger me felt like he was not seen, heard, and felt a lot. And if I can go back and take a lot of those days away from him of feeling that, I would. Do I appreciate still where I am today? Sure, yeah.
Right.
Should I have had to have navigate life like that? No. And everything else made it that way. Church,
Right.
South, all the things you can imagine.
Right.
So yeah, so I'm comfortable with where I am, but I do cry for that little boy sometime too.
Yeah. It gets deep.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm on Oprah side.
I think that, like Earl, I don't regret the time that I came out, but also like Tadian, I do recognize that there is this child, and we all have this,
Right.
child
Right.
within us, right, that we have to go back to and nurture in many ways. And for me, my work as an adult, even though the circumstances I was born in, the family I was born into, beautiful family, very, very religious family, and many things I'm grateful for, but a lot of that hurt and isolation that I experienced as a child came from me knowing that, very young, by the way, I know probably 5 years old, 5 or 6, I was very clear.
Were
clearly
you
attracted
clear
to
that
guys.
you liked the same sex, or were you clear that you just were different, that you didn't see things the same way?
To me, and this is on the backdrop also, I have 5 brothers. So,
Right.
Just having all those guys in my family, I knew that I was different from them at that age in this way, but also I knew that I was attracted to other guys, like in kindergarten, in first grade, the way that they were attracted to other girls at that
right.
age. So all of that was happening from a young age, and like I was mentioning, my work now is like, how do I just affirm that little kid that's still inside of me, and how do I, now that I'm out, enjoy myself and really live in that free space?
Because do you feel like you've, for so long, had to hide that it's still hard for you to kind of like be comfortable in where you're at now? Do you ever do you ever like sit back like, okay, maybe that was too much, or maybe I just need to take a step back, or it's like just hard to fulfill like your whole like.
Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's a battle to be secure in certain ways.
Which is everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that the world pretends like only LGBTQ people are confused.
Right.
Like we're not all trying to navigate our own self.
Absolutely.
I can sit here and turn the tables on myself and talk about things that, that I went through in my childhood that I'm still trying to fix now today, So I think it's just like people just think they have it figured out when it comes to like coming out and all that. Tell you how you should do it and all that stuff.
But I don't think, isn't that like what humanity is?
Right.
Right. It is the constant quest and journey of figuring it out.
Yes.
I think the day you no longer figure it out is the day you're dead.
Right.
Right. And I even think about the intersection of the fact of us as humans, the common experience as Black people. You're always navigating that.
Yes.
You're navigating the intersection of also being a woman, right? And what comes with that
Right.
experience itself.
Yes.
So it's like not just being Black, not just being gay, not just being in the South. You have to add a plus sign in between all of that and see what the equal looks like for you. And that is not work that can be done in a year or 2 years.
Right.
We would do that work for the rest of our our lives.
That's right.
And you have to be on the side of being okay with discovering what that looks like for
You.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part. I think that's the hard part too.
Hard as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's also when y'all, because we're talking about college, right, and high school. I think growing up in the South and growing up in the church, and especially if you're in a small church or in a small community, Dylan, I mean, people are always like, oh, like he's doing this in church, he must be gay, or he's gay. You know, people always want to talk about it. And then when you come out, everyone's shocked or everyone has more to talk about. And it's like, why are people shocked? And why don't people talk about, like, I was talking to someone about why are people, when you're in a small community and people are talking about this one kid and they may know situations that had happened in the church where people took advantage of kids or, you know, and then all of a sudden they never talked about this type of stuff that went on at home. And then they're surprised when things arise or when these kids are struggling outside and then nobody ever talked about it.
Yeah, it's a constant issue. I think that LGBTQ people face, but it's not exclusive to us, right?
No.
I think what will happen is people will make our community like a boogeyman and use us like as the bad thing, right? For many different reasons, politically, whether it's in the church, if it's just, you know, at school or whatever, while all of these other very, very negatively impactful things are happening to people as well. Like you mentioned, abuse.
Yeah.
You know, we have full like people who commit like murder, and that's like generally like people may know like the story behind it, but for the most part, in certain communities, they're still accepted in the family. You don't have like those people that are, you know, bastardized basically because they've committed a crime, whatever it is. But for the gay community, you can just be honestly about your experience and your attraction, and that is cause for you to be banished in some way from your family, which is absolutely ridiculous when you really think about it, right?
Yeah.
So
We also have to add right there, just to add on to Judy's, not just like abandoned within your family. People are being killed.
Right.
Right? People are being murdered.
Right.
Because of their choice. That should be a concern for every single living human being.
Right.
Yeah.
I also think it's just a deflective practice, right? So people like to deflect attention from them. And if I can name this person that is loud or living free, or that I know that there's a consensus that is wrong, I'm going to go to pick on this person because that's less eyes on me and whatever I'm doing that can get eyes to. So I do think sometimes it's that in combination of what you're saying, but I think like when you're living in your truth sometimes and people are, again, insecure or jealous or they don't know how to get there, I'm going to pick.
and it's heavy on that last part, like that envy of I have this box that I have to be in.
Yeah.
Right? So many people are so comfortable with these roles in their head, but their bodies are actually fighting against this small
hate
box. And if you and your gay ass prances across this campus, or you have your, you know, I'm wearing like these little pearls or whatever, and some people will look at this and be like, that is way too feminine. And I'm like, it's jewelry, number one, right?
This whole thing.
This is literally. Look, I got this from H&M. Right. But it's like, this is too much for you, seriously. You just want to exercise your freedom, but the box that you're within won't allow you to do that. And so now it's your job to just point your finger and try and take somebody like me or Earl or Tadian down.
And I think it's connected to safety too, right?
Right.
Like
That's okay. I can
stepping
understand.
out of the box
Yeah.
puts you front and center. And so if you don't feel secure, or even if you're a straight, everybody tries to step out of the box at
Right.
some point. I strongly believe that society, from birth to wherever age you are, is trying to knock you into, like you said, a box, a category. And the moment you step out of that, you're getting some kind of repercussion or rash that makes you feel I'm not safe. And so I think, I tell everybody to go to therapy, is go to therapy so you can learn and create a new safety for yourself where that's authentic and aligned with who you are. And so I think oftentimes when people see somebody is stepping out, right, and they are safe, but they feel uncomfortable, they want to lash out to, let me knock you back to what's considered the norm.
That's really good. Yeah. You said, yeah,
Clap, clap, clap.
really good. So with the what was the goal with, or what is the goal with your podcast? And then, because I feel like it's not just I don't like to say podcast. I feel like it's
Talk series, experience.
an experience, right? A brand. And what responsibility do you feel like you have with it? Like, do you feel like who, at first, who was your audience? Who would you say was your audience? Just everyone?
You said,
No.
I can jump in.
Yeah.
What? And also kind of do the breakdown of what grits is.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so
You
know,
can move the mic towards you too if you want.
So we're pretty clear on who our audience is, right? Our first audience is creating space for Black, gay men in the South.
Okay.
If you identify with that, this space is created for you, by you, essentially us, right? If you can come here and feel seen, heard, and felt, we have done our job. If anybody else chooses to come alongside that journey with us, to learn, to empathize, to hone in on, you are invited, but you're not required, right? So we do it from the lens of our bigger social responsibility being creating a space for people who have not always had space.
Okay.
Right? And we oftentimes talk about this thing of when we show up to this microphone, we're each showing up not just for ourselves today, but our younger selves, and seeing something or content that we never, ever got to see growing up.
Right.
Right? There's been limited stories, limited narratives around our lived experience, especially as you add on the intersection of South and, you know, all the things. In addition to us being
Yeah.
preacher's kid, I mean, you talk about the church, right? We don't just go to church. Our parents were the church.
Church, right.
Right? And how do you
Especially in a
navigate
small
that?
community. Right.
Absolutely. So how do you navigate all of that with vulnerability and boldness? So there's a responsibility when this comes on to do that in a way that doesn't make any other kid feel like we might have felt growing up, but that they are okay as they are, and being them is always enough. I think that we believe that is why we do this here. Yeah.
I'm glad I asked that question because obviously I'm not that specific audience, but I do, and I see the importance in it. And not just for people, and especially for people that need that space, because if they don't have that space, but also for us to learn. And because being in the South and having people that we have grown up with that are now, you know, are comfortable enough to come out, you kind of like, I do feel for, especially the college experience and like, just like not being able to talk to your best friend the same way that like being honest, completely honest with them. Yeah. And so I really do respect that. And
we actually have an episode like around that. Cause like I said, our show is targeted to Black queer men.
Right.
But we also, our last episode talked about the importance of relationships between Black gay men and Black women, and that safety and connection that we all provide to each other. Also, the G.R.I.T.S code stands for Gays Raised in the South. That's
right. And
we
so
cover a lot.
And do you feel like that's the importance of the show, or that's your responsibility, providing that space for
Yeah, it's meant to be just insightful. Like, if you have questions, just as you know, a woman, and you just want to know, I wonder what Julian, Tadian, and Earl might think about a certain topic, or even if you're just wanting to see how we talk about ourselves, right? That is also cool, and we have fun on the podcast.
Yeah. Y'all be cooking, and
you know, we have our things. Someone's still sour because they lost that competition.
And I also think
Stop.
representation-wise, right? So like, we all have very similar intersectionalities, but our experiences are vastly different. Like, they're PK kids. I'm not a PK child. My family is just more so spiritual. But our experiences are different. I grew up in the church, but I also was at a very young age. It was just like, everybody in here hurt. Like, there's a lot of hurt trauma going up in here. I'm seeing you judging all these moms, these young moms. I'm hearing these comments. I don't like this space.
Okay.
Till we found the right church home. But, like,
Right.
I think that's one thing. I've always been an opinionated child. But my mom's has always created that space of just, we're not going to stay where we don't feel appreciated and seen. And so we're going to keep it moving. So.
Did you, because you brought up your mom, did y'all have to have your family support on doing the podcast? Or it was just like, I'm grown, this is who I am, and this is just, did y'all have the conversation like, hey, I'm going to do this? Or did you just do it?
Yeah. For me, like for my family, honestly, I don't know. I feel like my dad and mom raised me and my brothers to kind of do not what we want necessarily, but kind of like forge your own path. Like, if you're passionate about something, just do it. And I didn't really feel the need to get, like, permission or anything like that for the podcast. They know who they raised ultimately.
Right.
And, yeah, I didn't tell them too much about it before I started. I pretty much just let them know, like, I'll be talking about being gay. And they were like, oh, okay, cool. So I sent them, like, we have a family group chat, of course.
Right.
It's called The Proud Family. And so basically every time we drop an episode, I'll put it into the group chat, and that's we
it.
just kind of talk about
That's
it.
beautiful. I like that.
We've never asked each other this. I'm curious. What's your answer?
You know, my people live for me.
Yeah.
Like, we just go up for each other.
Your mama be under every video.
My mama is on every
commenting,
post.
Okay.
She texted me even the other week. So when we doing this mom episode, when I need to be ready, you know, I'm about to go out of the country, so I need to know what date I need to be available. I'm like, girl, slow down. But there wasn't any huge like conversation. I just was like, hey, I'm thinking about starting a show. And we said the name. My mom was like, that hit. Okay. She's like, well, let me know when it drops. My auntie, who is like my person as well, both of them always watch every episode. Even when I had my first podcast, like,
Yeah.
they just
I like
always
that
are
one.
like, live. Just
Right.
go, do, and do more. And just, they just always been very supportive. I've never had an idea that was shut down, which I think is why I'm like so ambitious about things, because they just like, why not?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's interesting. So it's interesting. I'm processing this in real time. I've never mentioned the podcast to my parents.
Really?
Never.
Never. To this day.
Never.
Have they watched?
Probably not. But I don't know how they would know that it even exists. It's not. I don't post on Facebook about it.
Okay.
They're not my friends on Instagram. I don't think so. So
They got a burner account.
I've never had the conversation, but I'm asking myself here in real time. Is there a reason that I haven't communicated?
Okay.
Or is it just like we have to talk about it?
Does
But
your
I-
sister watch?
I don't know. I've never asked them.
So you're not dropping it in the profit. You're not dropping it in the family
No,
group
not
chat.
at all. But I'm again. I feel like I'm on the couch again.
Oh no!
If I've been trying to keep my safe space, my space safe, and I referenced that at my 25th birthday 2 years ago. For those who were there, I made an announcement around the fact that I worked on a project for my 25th birthday. I essentially made a documentary talking about the first 25 years of my life. Months worth of content, had all this stuff together, 7-episode type series. And I sent it and one episode was about my experience being gay, the intersection of how the church impacted that. So I'm having this conversation in the church with my pastor about sexuality. Like, I was ready to like blow the internet up. And I shared it with my parents the week before releasing it. To be like, hey, this is coming out. You know, our family is very put together. I'm a very put together family. It's like PR, right? Like, this is a family matter.
Yes,
Everything
right.
we do individually impacts all of us. So I shared it with them, and they thought I should not put it out. And I ended up not putting it out because of just all that they shared back to me. And I think when this one rolled around, something probably tapped that same feeling.
Yes,
of they're
yeah.
not going to silence me again, right? But I mean, now there's still underlying truth of like I do whatever I want to do.
Right.
Let's be real. But I wonder if that piece of me that felt shut down before didn't communicate it because I didn't want to feel that again. So I'm processing that in real
Do you
time.
still have this content?
Right.
Yeah.
And it looks.
You'll ever?
I think so. At this point, right? It's like the Kanye documentary. Like, he
Yeah.
had content for 20 years that
Yeah.
was never released.
But we're not gonna wait 20.
Well, it's gonna be,
I mean, I feel like he would do that though.
I will.
And that's
I already got
like,
a
he
plan
probably
for it.
he probably was like, hold up.
It's all on the hard drive. Because one of the things I also want to acknowledge, when I did that work, it was for Tadian. I didn't record that content for anybody else.
I
to
feel
have to
that.
consume.
Yes, right.
I wanted to go through the process of healing and make available what I felt comfortable making available for you all to join me on that journey of healing. And I'm still doing that work, right? So whenever it's time, back to Earl's point earlier, when it's time, it will drop.
I feel that because the year after I graduated from college, I wrote like a self-reflection book. And I thought that it was meant to be published, but it was meant for me. Yeah. And I never, ever released it. And I was working at Urban Outfitters as a manager, and my regional manager loved me so much. Shout out to her, because she'll still give me a job if I asked her. But she was like, oh my gosh, like, this is so good, because, like, people need to realize that, like, therapy is good, but you can also do some work by yourself, too. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. And I was so excited because I was like, this is going to be a hit. But I realized it was for me and not for the whole world. Maybe we'll drop on.
Yeah, but I didn't realize that. So even though I didn't release the full 7-part series, I still, and it's still on my Instagram today, I released a short video I recorded about, it was still my public coming out video. Because I feel like I could not step into 26 without doing it. And on the other side, the pre-side of that, I thought it was about everybody else. I thought it was about finally letting my daddy know that I'm gay. My mom had already known for years. We agreed to never tell my dad.
Okay.
She made the decision that we would never tell my dad, right? So, like...
She made that decision for you, or y'all?
For the family, right? My dad's a pastor. We're not going to put that on him.
Yeah.
Right? And again, they know my mom was my girl.
Right.
But there's flaws, right? And we all come.
And she's still trying to learn her, like, she's learning too.
There's grace
yes.
for the journey. But that was the reality. So I was thinking this coming out was about finally letting the whole world know and being able to breathe and all the things. And on the other side, I was like, this was about me the whole time. It was never about anybody else. But it took me doing that to realize it. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Earl, I want to ask you a question. Because you're talking about your mom and your aunt being so supportive. Did that support, as when you were younger, not feel still, that support wasn't coming out support? That was just support you as a human being? Like, when did you come out to your mom, or why did you feel like you couldn't?
Child is here.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. The brain its goal is always to protect you, and sometimes it protects you from things that you actually need to be getting in tune with. I had so many narratives. So I'm a junior. I got an old name. So I'm named after my dad, and my dad, I will shorten it up to say, has taken a lot of steps and like that probably were not for the best. And so in me having and being a namesake, I had a lot of internal pressures of I have to be better than.
Okay.
I have to set the example of this name and give this name power. And so growing up, being a little black boy in the South, I've always was told you have 2 strikes. You black and you are male. Unbeknownst, well, I'm sure they know. You know your children. I had a 3rd. I was gay. And so growing up, I used to just have a lot of pressures of like, oh my God. And we talked about this. Yeah. Super successful, making great grades, super involved, all the things, right? That, look at me, right? So when I do bring up what I think is a flaw, though I'm like, that's me. It's not a flaw. I think it just held me back. Because I told my mom was like one of the last. She was the second family member. I told my sister first. But all my friends had known for like a whole year or so.
Okay.
And maybe it was a few months. I can't remember, but 30. When I did come out to her, it wasn't much conversation. And I think I wanted it to be like this huge thing, but like no one, I've never had a bad experience of inviting anybody into that part of my life. Grace, thankfully. Yeah. But my mom was just like, okay. And I was like, you ain't got nothing to say? And she was like, no. She said, I did just take some headache medicine, so I'm kind of sleepy, but I'm okay. Like, you good? You dating somebody? It just was,
right.
That's it. Even my sister, everybody just was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And that was it. And so in my head, I think I wanted a little flair, a little drama.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't get that. Like, there weren't no questions. I'm just like,
I
oh.
wasted all this time.
Right. And I was like, girl. And I think I even asked my mom, well, did you know? And she's like, I mean, I had inclinations as a kid. She said, but I don't know. I mean, you had girlfriends. But then she's like, I don't know, Earl. I just, whenever you were ready.
She said you could skate backwards at 6.
You get on my nerves. You reference to that video. But yeah, so I think I was my own barrier a lot of times. And I think that just around
Because it just felt like between the stories, it just feels like you had the most support, or like the most comfortable. So, but
I
obviously,
came out because my auntie, her senior prom date was her best friend. He did her hair and was her helped her pick her dress out. He was gay. My mom we have a cousin that was gay. I could have came out,
right? But it was you, and
yeah.
and I think and I think for me. It just shows to just keep being a supportive person, because that person is still just trying to figure it out for themselves. Like how you did all that work, that was for yourself. Being like, if I was your close friend, I'm just there to support you through that.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why, and can we say that for people who may just be supporters watching? That's why support is important.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you don't know what you just making someone feel okay as they are can do for their liberation. Right? Like, I am who I am. I was able to do that video. I was able to come into because of my village. Right? And it wasn't just gay people. It was everybody who made me feel I'm good as though I am.
Right.
So being that person is always enough along someone's journey of becoming, whether that's sexuality, coming into womanhood, coming into motherhood, coming into all the things we experience. Having village and community is everything.
So one of my friends had asked me recently, this is about like being a new mom and stuff. And I was just telling her like the disappointment that I kind of had in like my friends or my family not realizing that I need more, like or support. And she was like, do you feel like you have more pressure because you think that everybody thinks that you're okay, so you have even more pressure to be okay? And Tati, and I'm thinking about you, because it's like, do you feel like, or all y'all, because you were talking about how you excelled in all these other categories, do you feel like you had to excel in all these categories to hide away that part that nobody saw or could see, that you didn't think they could see?
100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
Right.
And we all, and you know, I think that's also why we connected too. Like,
Bingo.
high performing. Earl came up with this term about the 10%, right? Like, and I adopted that very early. But it's like to not just be gay, right? To not just be a pretty face, if you will, but have your stuff together. Be a good human being. Be decent. Be ambitious and driven. That's a lot to be bringing to a table. Okay, so having a piece of that is just who we are, I would like to say.
Right.
I'm driven just because I'm driven.
Right.
I'm a worker just because I love to work.
Yeah, right? for sure.
But I think we'd all not be telling the full truth if we didn't say that there was a way to try to be as buttoned up and perfect as possible. Because of the fear, if that thing came out, it shatters everything else.
Yes,
so if that part is together, my family still got something to say. Like, at least my son... Right. It gives everybody something to use as armor when it shouldn't really have to be that way.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, because I just think about it as I need support. I think we all need support, and I think that some people just like to just put like gay people in a box, like, oh, they like. But everybody needs support in
what
some
was your
way.
response to that question?
Oh, most definitely. Like, I feel like I had the conversation with Jarrell, because when I got into the hospital, I just feel like all we did was pray. He didn't ask me, like, he just knew I was going to get better because he was praying about it. But I needed to be very vulnerable and be like, I'm scared, okay? Yes, we can pray about it, but I'm scared right now, and I need somebody to be scared with me, or at least see that scaredness and almost like, because I had a very traumatic childhood. I didn't really, like, me and my mom were going through it at the same time almost, with my dad dying early. And then I had a lot of other things that I went through by myself. And not having anybody to be in that space with. You know, there's a lot of things that I dealt with by myself. And still to this day, I feel like I'm dealing with things by myself. But I also think I do that to myself. I don't always share that with, you know?
It's like a two-way street. Like, it takes a lot of vulnerability to even ask for support.
Right.
And then I think people also have to be able to ask people, like, what do you need? I think a lot of times there's a thing, toxic positivity. Everything, we can't always be optimistic. Sometimes I need like 5 minutes to be like, this some bullshit.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you.
I need to sit in it and I want to be like, all right,
Yes.
this some bullshit. I'm going to have a bullshit day, but then tomorrow I'm going to be back. I'm
Yes.
going to be good.
Thank you. Yes. Because yes.
But I think that's
Real
the thing.
coming
Like,
soon.
and it's hard though, because like if you're so, and I think that's another part. I was a very independent person, so it will be like that. I'm not gonna ask for support because I don't want to have that chance. Am I getting a narrative? I'm asking for support and then you let me down, and then it's just like you just prove my point.
Exactly,
But
and
it's
that
like,
is another
Earl,
thing.
What are you doing, baby? Like this is not black and white. Hold grace, hold space, because everybody going through something. I think that's the thing too. Even with my friends that have gotten older, like if one of us, I don't even say drop the ball. You were not able to hold space for me, and that's okay. That doesn't mean tomorrow you won't do it. And that won't mean one day I might not be able to hold space. And so even with my friends, we have this thing where we check in of like, one, I'm always asking, what do you need? Like, are you wanting to vent or you want advice? Because that also saves me. Because if I feel like I'm giving you this good advice, and then you go do the opposite, I can't be mad at nobody but myself because that's not even what you were asking for.
Okay.
So, a lot of conversation gotta have. But communication is hard, but it's needed.
Yes. And I'm realizing that more so now too. And I felt that part where you said, I don't want to tell you, and then you disappoint me. And then I had that in my marriage because it's like, I really don't want to be, I don't want this to be a thing later, you know, so I don't bring it up. But that didn't help. Like now we are great communicators. Like that's the best way to have a relationship, friendship, whatever, communication. Learning how that person communicates too. And because I think a lot of times growing up, Jarrell will always just say, pray about it. Like, or we can pray about it together. And but sometimes I want to talk about it. Right. And I want to talk it through. Right. So we can wrap this up in I guess. But what are y'all future goals with Grits? Like I just feel like it is an experience, right? So where are y'all trying to take it? What are y'all claiming for it? And just where do you want it to go?
Everywhere.
We're claiming elevation for it. Definitely growing our platforms. So of course, we invite everybody to follow us at the Grits Code on Instagram and on YouTube. But we just want to take it as far as it'll go. I think that with this platform, especially some of the recognition we've gotten so far.
Right.
Recently, we were out in LA with GLAD and really learning from true creative professionals. Just getting those gold nuggets, making sure that we make those connections, true, genuine connections that one, bolster our platform, but also bolster other people's platforms and provide some sort of resource directly to community. And we're talking about Black people here in the South. Like that is 100% our focus. So just keep going up.
Yeah, I think
love it.
The biggest thing, it's something about a live show for me. I want just like live events, because yes, I love like being in front of the camera and we just getting to talk, but we had our first live show June. Yeah. And I just love its energy, right?
Yes.
Just so what I do for a living. I love talking to people sometimes. But like just being able to just connect, have real conversations, be in that moment. I just live for a live show. So I would love to see us expand to more live shows, expand to colleges, high schools, being safe spaces.
Yes.
For everybody, but particularly like Black queer boys and men. So
yeah. I just, there's a space for it, obviously. There's a need for it. And I would just like, please just don't stop. Like, don't let, you know, because I feel like even for me sometimes, like, it's so easy for me to be like, and like, just, oh, this other thing is, you know, other things are taking up my time. I don't need to do this. So I know that this will be great and everybody needs it. And you know, one other thing, this is a real random thing, because you was talking about shows. How do you feel, because we were talking about this in our friend group, I heard that they're doing like a Queer Love, the Ultimatum in Atlanta. How do you feel about that? Because I feel like it's an opportunity. They know that it will be entertaining, and I feel like that's wrong to you. I mean, there's people that are casting for this, so people want to be on the show. But do you not feel like for the producers that's like an opportunity they took to be messy and to almost like capitalize off of like your like.
Oh, I think that's the reason why we even did this show, to provide a different type of representation.
Thank you, right. It's just messy.
Society likes to pigeonhole what queerness looks like and give you mess, give you
Sex.
Yes.
all the things, right? And again, we're not a monolith. And so for me, I think it's just, I don't know the producers. I don't know what their fuel is.
Right.
I would love, why don't we just have this on the regular season, right? I don't like when people do spin-off or like, here's a special. We're doing an LGBT special or a gay special.
Yes.
Just go ahead and incorporate that, because this isn't special, this is normal. So go ahead and put it with the regular show and just have your people that are queer or whatever, and we all can have this love ultimatum. But I don't know. I also don't really even like dating show.
They're not, I mean, it's not real.
So, but
But yeah, I just felt like I almost felt offended, and I just felt like it's gonna be entertaining. So I understand where the marketing and the strategy behind it is, but that's almost the problem, because you're using, and I can only
it's
imagine.
appropriation in a sense.
Yes.
To your profit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really the driving force behind it. Like, those dollars, they're trying to get those viewers, and they know, like, with the media climate right now, like, the mess is what's going to bring those eyes in for the most
Yes.
part. So, you know, it's the business behind it all,
Right.
but also, like Earl was saying, I think that's where it's really nice to have, like, these ground up sorts of shows.
Yeah,
where
right.
we're giving you that content that's directly from like grassroots people
And authentic.
people, yeah. And so we're also lucky in a way, because we're able to get this directly to viewers. So yeah, that's a blessing in and of itself. You don't need a network to
And I want to make an
Yeah.
adjustment, right? Because we're not a monolith, right? Mess is okay too, right? Show it all.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna just show that, I want you to show the other parts as well. So, because you got people.
And we're the other parts.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking like, well, let me also be like, that would be exclusive to me. But like, well, if somebody's like a sexy red and that's who they are,
That's okay.
let them live and be free who they are.
Right. And
But show
because
the wide
they're also
range.
choosing to. I'm saying like somebody's got to be on the show, right? So
Right,
they're
right.
choosing to be on the show, but I just that like, ooh, let's go here and do this, because this is
Yeah.
gonna be good, right?
Yeah.
That's the part that kind of get me like, but I appreciate that y'all are having this authentic space and having it, and I pray that it goes far and that people will want to also see that part and the messy part. But okay, so that was a great show. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you're still here, I appreciate you. Please follow all of their Grits Co. You can find it on the information on the video and on Instagram. Thank you guys. Bye.
Let's travel hard and shit, but trust me, ain't no safer route. My poker face legit when all the stakes amount. Took my dreams and doubled down real quick while others raised the doubt. Some niggas define themselves by shit up in